The 1970 Pontiac GTO sold 40,000 units to young guys who wanted to go fast. The 1977 Pontiac Grand Prix sold 288,000 units to middle-aged guys who wanted to feel fast. Somewhere between those two cars, the muscle car stopped being about performance and started being about comfort. Here's how that happened. Here's what everyone thinks happened. Emissions regulations strangled the engines, the oil crisis killed demand, and safety laws buried performance under a mountain of steel and rubber bumpers. And sure, those things happened, but they don't explain the real transformation. See, muscle cars didn't just lose power, they gained weight, gained luxury, and gained an entirely different buyer. The stripped-down street fighter that defined 1969 became the cushioned highway cruiser of 1977. Same nameplate, completely different mission. The real story isn't about regulations, it's about who was writing the checks. Let's go back to where this actually started, 1970. In our last video, we talked about how insurance companies systematically priced young buyers out of the muscle car market. By 1971, muscle car insurance was running $1,000 to $1,500 a year. For a 22-year-old, that was more than the car payment. When young buyers disappeared, Detroit had a choice: kill the muscle car entirely or find new buyers who could actually afford to own one. They chose option 2, and those new buyers wanted something very different. The new target demographic was older, 35 to 50 years old, established careers, families, money in the bank, clean driving records that actually qualified for reasonable insurance rates. And here's the thing about older buyers in the early 1970s. They didn't want raw performance. They wanted comfort with the illusion of performance. Detroit listened, and what came next changed everything. By 1973, something fascinating was happening across every American manufacturer. Muscle cars weren't being discontinued, they were being redesigned from the inside out to appeal to buyers who would never take them to a drag strip. The 1973 Pontiac Grand Am became the template. It was marketed to 35-year-olds. The ads featured business suits, not leather jackets. The selling points weren't horsepower or quarter-mile times. They were ride quality, interior appointments, and highway refinement. Oldsmobile followed the same path. The 1973 Cutlass 442, a car that 3 years ago had been a legitimate street terror with 455 cubic inches, was now being sold on luxury features. The ads showed middle-aged men. The copy talked about comfort. This wasn't a conspiracy. This was survival. And survival meant mass. Here's where the transformation gets technical, because the comfort older buyers demanded came with mass that couldn't be avoided. Sound deadening, lots of it. Early muscle cars were raw and loud because young buyers didn't care. Older buyers, however, wanted conversations at highway speed. That meant layers of insulation between the cabin and the road. Each layer added pounds. Thicker steel. The industry quietly started using heavier gauge metal in body panels and structural components, partially for crash standards, but mostly because it reduced vibration and road noise. A 1970 Chevelle's doors felt light and tinny. A 1975 Chevelle's doors thunked shut like a vault. Power everything. Windows, locks, seats, steering. Each electric motor and mechanism added weight, but older buyers expected convenience. Manual windows were for young people in cheap cars. Air conditioning became standard instead of optional. That's 60+ pounds of compressor, condenser, and refrigerant lines. But try selling a car in 1975 without AC to a 45-year-old buyer. It wasn't happening. Bigger seats with more padding. The thin-backed buckets that saved weight in 1969 were replaced with recliners that felt like living room furniture. Comfortable, absolutely. Light, not even close. Vinyl roofs. They added almost nothing to performance, but they added visual luxury, and they added weight in adhesive, padding, and the vinyl itself. Quieter exhausts. The glass packs and chambered mufflers that made a 1969 GTO bark were replaced with heavily baffled systems that muted the soundtrack. More metal, more mass, more sound absorption. And here's where it gets interesting. All of this created a feedback loop that made the problem worse. Heavier cars felt slower, so engineers compensated with bigger engines. Bigger engines needed stronger engine mounts, beefier transmissions, and more robust rear axles. More robust components meant more weight. But those bigger engines weren't making more power. They were just bigger in displacement to meet emissions standards while maintaining drivability. So you had the mass of a 455 cubic inch V8 producing the power of a 350 from 5 years earlier. The mass spiraled upward, and nobody could stop it because stopping it meant disappointing buyers who now expected luxury, not rawness. By 1977, the transformation was complete. The GTO was gone. Dead. The nameplate that started the entire muscle car movement in 1964 had been discontinued in 1974. In its place, the Grand Prix became Pontiac's flagship performance car. The base model came with a 301 cubic inch V8, making 135 horsepower. It weighed 4,000 pounds. It had plush interior trim, a padded vinyl roof, and a ride so soft it felt like floating. The Dodge Charger went from a 440 Magnum street terror in 1970 to a personal luxury coupe in 1975, with a formal roofline and an interior borrowed from Chrysler's luxury division. Weight climbed, power dropped, comfort became the selling point. The Chevrolet Monte Carlo, which started life as Chevrolet's answer to the personal luxury market, became the template for what muscle cars were evolving into. By 1977, it was a 3,800-pound couch on wheels, with enough sound deadening to make conversations feel like you were in a living room. Ford's Thunderbird followed the same pattern. The Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, the Buick Regal, every American performance nameplate that survived the 1970s survived by becoming something softer, quieter, and heavier. And the wildest part is, it worked. Sales of these luxury-oriented performance cars absolutely crushed the stripped-down muscle cars they replaced. The 1977 Pontiac Grand Prix sold over 288,000 units. For comparison, the 1970 GTO, peak muscle car era, sold just 40,000. Buyers wanted comfort. Detroit gave them comfort. The muscle car died so the personal luxury coupe could live. But there were consequences nobody saw coming. This transformation is why American performance cars spent the next 20 years in the wilderness. The 1980s saw performance return, but it came back quiet and heavy. The 1985 Chevrolet Camaro IRAC-Z made 215 horsepower and weighed 3,200 pounds. Respectable numbers, but it was marketed on handling and refinement, not raw speed. When the Dodge Viper arrived in 1992, it was revolutionary precisely because it rejected everything the 1970s taught Detroit. No power windows, no air conditioning initially, no sound deadening. It was intentionally raw, and it only worked because it targeted older buyers with money who wanted to feel young again. And this transformation explains why import performance exploded in the 1990s. Japanese manufacturers watched American cars get soft and heavy, and they saw an opportunity. The Nissan 300ZX, Toyota Supra, and Mazda RX-7 were fast, but they were also tight, responsive, and engaging in ways American cars had forgotten how to be. Those imports didn't win because they had more power. They won because they never went through the comfort transformation. They stayed focused on driving dynamics, while American manufacturers were focused on boulevard ride quality. Even today, this legacy exists. Modern muscle cars are massive compared to their ancestors. A 2024 Dodge Challenger weighs over 4,200 pounds, nearly 1,000 pounds more than a 1970 Challenger. Why? Because modern buyers expect luxury, safety, and refinement alongside their horsepower. The difference is that modern engines can overcome the weight. A Hellcat makes 717 horsepower, so 4,200 pounds feels fast, but the principle is the same. Comfort sells, and comfort requires mass. So here's what actually happened. Muscle cars didn't die because regulations killed them. They transformed because the buyers who could afford to own them wanted something different. Detroit followed the money, and the money wanted quiet, comfortable, luxurious cars that happened to have big engines. The muscle car became the personal luxury coupe, and by the time anyone realized what had been lost, an entire generation of raw, lightweight, uncompromising performance machines had already disappeared. The golden age ended because fast cars became comfortable.